Hey team, welcome back to another incredible episode of the Intentional Agribusiness Leader Podcast. This is your host, Mark Jewell, and I am joined today by the lovely Juliana Potts. She's the CEO of the Meat Institute, and I believe that y'all are in for a treat. Juliana, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to the conversation, Mark.
Okay, you get the same opening question that everybody gets, Juliana. What does it mean for you to be intentional?
For me, being intentional means listening to the people around me, whether that's in my board work or here at the Meat Institute with staff or even my family. You can't, I think, effectively bring people along unless you know what they have to say and what they're thinking and feeling. And so listening is, to me, the first thing about being an intentional leader.
I love it. And I think it's absolutely true. Are we listening? Are we hearing? Right? Are we actually making people feel heard with that listening skill? It's easily one of the most challenging skills to really be good at because there's so much distraction
So
today.
much distraction and so many different channels that people are taking in information, and it can create a sense that our minds are on other things all the time. So it's not
Mhm.
only listening and hearing, as you said, but really creating that sense with your partner that you're in the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I would venture to bet, and we'll talk a little bit more about Meat Institute here in a minute, but I would
Hmm.
venture to bet that you end up in some pretty charged situations with people that need to feel heard. And, so,
Absolutely.
and I think a lot of our listeners do too, because maybe they're
Hmm.
dealing with a farmer who's frustrated with their fertilizer prices or high input
Hmm.
costs or whatever, right? And then maybe they, as that salesperson, are taking the brunt of it right now. Any advice for people who are in maybe a tougher situation where you've got vested interests on both sides and somebody's got to kind of hold the space and just listen?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. And especially right now with so many issues that are creating just tension and real pain out in farm country.
Yeah.
People come at conversations right now on a multitude of business and policy issues with a lot of emotion.
Mm.
And so what I try to do, and we're not always perfect at this, but what I try to do is just take as much as I can the emotion out of my
Hmm.
voice,
Hmm.
out of the response, out of the conversation. If you can disarm someone by saying, I really hear where you're coming from. I
Hmm.
understand. And I try really hard. It's not about avoiding conflict, but taking emotion out of the conversation and focusing on what is a common set of facts, and
Yeah.
then going from there.
Yeah. I love it. I think it's my wife and I were talking about this at supper last night. We went out for a little
Mm,
date night and had some pizzas.
yeah.
And as we were talking, we were both in this employee development, people development game.
Hmm.
And so we just generally don't have probably normal people conversations. And so
I know what you mean.
we're talking about capacity, right? And we often think about capacity. We define capacity as a leading indicator that gets us that helps us get lagging results. And
Hmm.
people think about capacity as things like, do I have enough time? Do I have enough money? Can I fit it all in the calendar? Right, like those kinds of things. And how do I get more capacity? Right, how do I get more
Hmm.
done? But we were talking about this and we said, capacity, a person's capacity really is the ability, the capability to stand in the tension between like where they are and where it is that they want to get to, or like
Hmm.
where they are and like where the person that they're talking to is, and really and
Hmm.
hold space in that moment,
Absolutely.
you
I
know.
100% agree with that. And not every, I mean, you can learn how to do that if you don't think that you do it well
Mhm.
already.
Yeah.
I also think that capacity is what we prioritize.
Hmm.
How you decide that something in the moment is important or not is also part of how we get through our day, because there are always going to be more demands on us than we can possibly fulfill. And we've created that for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you really focus on what's important? And I think it comes to those personal connections. In the moment, you have to prioritize what you're doing. And because it seems like it should be something that is natural,
Mm-hmm.
but I think when you talk about intentional leadership, I think you really do have to train yourself to think that way, that I need to be here in that moment and prioritize this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Big time. It requires discipline,
Mm-hmm.
right? Be here now, not, on the next meeting while we're sitting here making a podcast.
Right. And I love that you said supper.
Yeah.
We were at supper last night. It is something people catch me on sometimes. Well, dinner. And I said, no, I grew up having supper. Dinner was the midday meal.
Yeah. It really depends where you're at, right? I mean, for the most part, the most universal term for the evening meal is supper. For some,
Yeah.
it is dinner. Also,
Yeah.
I know, I'm trying to speak the language of most people across the country.
Right. Yeah. That's great.
Okay, so when we're having supper, we had pizza last night, but we often have things like steak and chicken around here. We're big
Yeah.
meat eaters, and so I'm excited to be talking to the CEO of the Meat Institute. Just tell us a little bit more about what is the Meat Institute, what do you guys do, and then how did you get there? What's your background?
Sure. Greatest job ever.
Mm-hmm.
I love the people that I work for. The Meat Institute is a conventional trade association in the sense that we are based here in Washington, D.C., influencing and advocating, at all levels, the USDA and the executive branch for sure, in Congress. In the judiciary, we occasionally bring litigation to ensure that what Congress intended with a statute is actually what's happening, what's coming out of the regulations. And then we have communications, and we provide a lot of opportunity here, just in inside the Beltway, to really advocate on behalf of the membership, which are packers, processors of all kinds of meat, every species. We represent about 95% of the red meat industry in the U.S. Yeah, and the suppliers, those that make the equipment and the packaging and offer the services and audits and things, as well as we have a category of members that are our customers. So retail, food service. So think fast food, restaurant chains, as well as grocery stores are part of our family, because meat tends to be either the most expensive, largest part of their procurement, or the thing that makes them the most money, in their sales to our ultimate customers. Yeah. So we have a great diverse membership. And we focus on the part of the supply chain that takes the animals and turns them into the products that you then see in the grocery stores and in restaurants. And we have a lot of what we call further processors. So those that aren't actually in the slaughter business, but take the primals and subprimals and turn them into delectable things like beef jerky or pork sausage or turkey nuggets or turkey for Thanksgiving. So
there you go. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think speaking everybody's love language that listens to the show. I'm assuming most of our listeners are going to be meat eaters.
Yeah.
In most cases. So yeah.
Well, and right now, Mark, we are enjoying kind of a real attention to animal protein as being really good for you, being very not just nutritious, but nutritionally dense. So we feel like, not just because of the policies of this administration and a lot of what is happening with Make America Healthy Again, which we can talk about more, But if you look on Instagram, or I'm not on TikTok, but my kids
Mm-hmm.
are, and I get a lot of things passed on to me, or really everywhere on social media, you see a lot of health gurus and people who are advocating for what you need to build muscle if you're in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that focuses on the nutritional density of animal protein.
Yeah.
So we're in a moment, and we're trying to, you know, take advantage of that, because 98% of households walk out of the grocery store with some kind of animal protein in the grocery basket. That's pretty
Mm-hmm.
significant. So yeah, I hope we're
What was
preaching
that
to the
percentage?
choir, but yeah,
Did you say 98%?
over 98%
Wow.
of families, or of shoppers, let's say, households, when we get together in March at an event called the Annual Meat Conference, which is a conference that we put on with our members in the processing industry, with the
Mm-hmm.
retailers. They get together and we talk about what's happening in trends and sort of economic outlook for the industry. We have this wonderful survey that gets done in the spring and is debuted. It's called The Power of Meat. And The
Mm-hmm.
Power of Meat has been done for, I believe it'll be 21 or 22 years in March. And every year we see the same, sort of numbers. About 98% of shoppers buy animal protein.
Wow.
And that's really significant, because, if you just
Yeah.
pay attention to the headlines on meat impacts, you would think that it's declining, but
Yeah.
it's really not.
Yeah. It's so wild to sit here and think, because I feel like so many in ag spend an outsized amount of time proportionally defending their way of life. Right. and, and
Hmm.
and and rightfully so, because I know there's a lot of attacks, in that arena. And
Hmm.
by the way, I didn't grow up on a livestock operation, but my dad was a fur trader and trapper up until the mid '80s. And when
Wow.
activism really started to
Wow.
attack the fur industry, we lost everything. He used to tell a story about he came
Wow.
within 2 days of having the eviction notice
Mm.
tacked on the front
Yeah.
door, kind of thing. It was
Yeah.
very hard for us, and I grew up in that. Right, I came up on the kind of I was young, but I
Hmm.
was around my parents when they were going through it, and I remember the arguments and the things
Yeah.
like that. And so this is very real. For families,
Absolutely.
for farm families who are
Yeah.
experiencing that. And I always try to share that with my family and friends who are not of the industry or from the industry. And these are just farmers trying to do the best they can, right, to keep food on the
Exactly.
plate. And so, and now you're telling me, okay, more than 98% of Americans or families are walking out the door of the grocery store or their Instacart with some sort
Yeah.
of meat product in there. And
Yeah.
that's, you're talking 360 million people that are getting access, or 98% of 360 million people are
Hmm.
getting access to some protein.
Yes,
It's like so significant.
it's a wonderful
Yeah.
story, and it's a tremendous asset that we have in agriculture, and in
Mm-hmm.
animal agriculture particularly, that people love our products,
Mm-hmm.
and they can be part of a healthy dietary pattern. And we can see this over and over and over again, that, including saturated fats and animal protein is is part of how many dietitians and health professionals and
Mm-hmm.
researchers are beginning to question what has been, wisdom of the past. And Maha has helped sort of focus a little
Yeah.
bit on that. But people speak a lot with their feet, in terms of, what do I like to taste? How do I want to
Mm-hmm.
celebrate a holiday? What is special to me? And I think, we don't even have to go outside the country to say, culturally,
Mm-hmm.
all types of meat, animal protein, are really central to our families and how we celebrate,
Yeah.
and who we are, as Americans. And I think that has been a tremendous uh, story. It's been a tremendous narrative. And so you mentioned, how under attack sometimes we feel in
Mhm.
agriculture. That is so true when it comes to any kind of animal agriculture.
Mhm.
And so when you do have the ability to garner support for animal agriculture by restaurants, by
Mhm.
grocery stores, by employees of businesses that produce these things,
Yeah.
because we're a small group in rural America producing lots and lots
Right.
of food.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the companies like the ones I represent, who have lots
Mhm.
of employees who want to go to bat for the industry, it's when you hear all of that and how important it is to so many people that we feel less alone
Mhm.
and more active in controlling our narrative. But
Yeah.
it's never enough, because
Right.
we do have to keep, we have to keep at it, and we
Yeah.
always
I,
have.
I feel like I should know this. Do you know the downstream like amount of employment that is created due to the meat industry in general? Do you guys have any like ballpark figures on? I mean, how many people does JBS employ? Does
Yeah, yeah,
Tyson employ? I mean, this. I mean, we're
yeah.
talking millions of
So
people.
so we actually, and maybe if you want to, we can link it in the podcast notes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
We can put it in
but
show notes.
just today we debuted an economic study, and it's funny that you asked me this question on the day that we put this out, because it has been
Not
said.
prompted, by the way. Not
No,
scripted. This
no,
was
not at
not. We didn't
all.
talk about it.
Totally coincidental.
Yeah.
But direct employment, and economic benefit, coming
Mhm.
just from our plants. I'm going to miss the numbers a little bit, but let's say it's 57 billion in economic addition to
Mhm.
the economy, and then around
Wow.
570,000, workers, right, in communities.
Wow.
But you asked about downstream, and so when you calculate some of the farms and the rural communities and the businesses like inputs,
Mhm.
feed and whatnot, then I think you get up to uh, there are many, many, many more billions, 275 or 300 billion, and then also I think 3.7 million in workforce. So
Wow.
it's a significant impact. And I think if we were to add sort of all the way through, grocery and food service
Mhm.
and all that, it would get even more impressive. The
Yep.
thing is, meat is central to our lives,
Mhm.
and not everybody has to eat it. And I don't want to come across to anybody as saying, you must eat meat, but most of us do. And
Mhm.
certainly your listeners hopefully are engaged in some aspect
Yeah.
of farming that touches the production of meat,
Yeah.
whether they're crops or selling equipment, or selling seeds.
Yeah. Absolutely. But that would pretty much cover everybody.
Yeah,
And really, I mean, to me, I just always think of meat as it's such a central, it's the focal point of the meal. Like, I mean, you might get a compliment on your mashed potatoes. I'm not trying to downplay the importance of the potato guys that are listening.
that's
You might
right.
get a compliment on your asparagus. I'm not trying to downplay the importance of the asparagus growers, but you're my kids will tell you, my family will tell you that nobody makes a steak better than mine.
Yes. Oh,
I'm
that's a
not here.
wonderful compliment.
And I'm not here to
Mhm.
get into a fight with anybody who thinks their steak or your kids said the same, but my kids think this, and that's
Mhm.
gospel truth around here. And so when it
Yeah.
comes to be a steak night, right? Like I go to Oak Quinn's barbershop in Pittsboro, North Carolina, and I go down. And
Mhm.
why do I buy it there? Well, because I get consistently good results with the steak that I cook. So I know they got a good buyer, right?
Mhm.
Who's selecting good, from wherever he probably knows the people he's
Mhm.
buying it from. And there's just so many things that go into it. And it's like, it's not just a meal, it's an experience.
That's right. That's right. And really across all of the supply chain in this segment in the industry, from the producers all the way through to, I was just visiting recently in San Antonio. I walked a store. Are you familiar with HEB, the
Mhm.
grocery store chain in
Yep.
Texas? And they have stores in Mexico. But I was at a flagship store in San Antonio, and we spent a ton of time talking about the consumer experience, and the myriad ways they could get meals that contain meat, prepared meals, things that were packaged beautifully, the questions that they ask. I mean, it was really great to be truly kind of at that point of sale and hear about the questions. But yeah, it is, for most people, there is a centrality to it,
Mhm.
and really important for growing brains, for
Yeah.
pregnant women, and for older people. My mother, my 70, excuse me, she will kill me for saying this. My 82-year-old mother,
Yeah.
I'm from Florence, Alabama. Mom lives in
Uh-huh.
Florence, Alabama. And Mom, at 82, needs more animal protein because she's
Yeah.
lost all her muscles, and that's what her
Mhm.
doctor has said. And so
Mhm.
when I go home, I spend a lot of time cooking and putting things in the freezer that I know she will take out and eat.
Yeah.
And it's always, some version of meaty stews or meatballs or things like that.
Yeah. So good. Oh man, so good. It's such a focal point. One thing I want to touch on this really quick, and then I would love to talk about Maha, how that's affecting the
Sure.
industry and that stuff too. But so we support Momentum Company supports a nonprofit out of Indianapolis called Hatch for Hunger.
Hmm.
Are you familiar with these guys? I don't know if
No, not yet.
Danny Lecky's been on the show. He's
Hmm.
the CEO of it. It was started by his name is Evane, CEO of Elanco.
Hmm.
At this
Yes,
point,
yes.
Jeff
Jeff
Simmons, right?
Simmons, thank you. I know Jeff.
So yeah, so Jeff, not trying to put us on the spot to remember everybody's name as we go through
Right.
this, but so anyway, Jeff and a group of others got together and helped to fund the startup of this. And so what they do is they're working with packers, they're working with producers to be able to get good quality protein into the food pantries, the food banks, et cetera, et
Yes.
cetera. And so
Yes.
just in the last year, we've been able to purchase two coolers. Our little company, right? We're just a
Yeah.
couple, we're just a few people out here trying to make a
Yeah.
difference in the world. But we're a tithing company, so 10% of all dollars that come into our company go back out into
That's
the world in
beautiful.
some way, shape, or form, whether it's the food pantry or the church or
Right.
organizations like Hatch for Hunger. And so it's been really cool. So we're getting our next one ready, and we get to put a wrap on the cooler. Okay, and there are 60,000 food pantries in America, and
Hmm.
only 20,000 have refrigeration.
Right.
Okay, that's why this is a
Yeah.
big deal. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, we're not gonna. I mean, I did the math. It's going to be about $100 million. You guys, we got to come together to get a
Mm.
cooler into every single one of these
Yeah.
that needs a
Yeah.
cooler. If anybody wants to get behind me, reach out. I'm going to get us in touch with
Yeah.
Danny. We'll make a movement out of it. I would love to see companies donating to this. So I'm making a bit of a plea right now, and it's Thanksgiving, the week that ahead of a
Absolutely.
week ahead
Yeah.
as we record this. But let's. I'll move on with it. So anyway, we're currently designing the wrap, right? And
Hmm.
we're giving, and our family's getting involved with it. But we're putting, it's a name, right? And it's like, I don't know, it's the Momentum Cooler or whatever, and we're putting it in there, and we can put a QR code. And so actually, we're connecting that QR code up to free training from our company that would
Oh,
just give
nice.
that work
Yeah.
my wife and I are creating to help people who are maybe going through a tough time, to help with
Right.
workforce education, or just say, hey, here's some Bible verses, here's some stuff to get you through a tough
Yeah.
time. Here's
Yeah.
what we, and my wife and I both have that experience in our past growing up where our families depended on food pantries to get by. And so anyway, Danny and the team at Hatch for Hunger are doing a great job, and everybody should donate money to them, and everybody should do good things to help doing that. But just those two little coolers,
Yeah.
I think are putting something like it's like 1,000 people a month or something that are getting access to eggs and chicken that
Hmm.
wouldn't normally get access to eggs and
Yeah.
chicken, right? It's like 18,000 pounds a month or so. It's a lot.
It is amazing,
Yeah.
and kudos to you. And I think that is a most wonderful story. We need to highlight that. And
Hmm.
not just at Thanksgiving, though people are feeling probably the gratitude is higher at this point, of the
Yeah.
year than maybe normally. We work and have worked with, everything from the Capital Area Food Bank here in the
Hmm.
DC area to Feeding America. And
Hmm.
I'll just give you a number that you may already know because of your
Hmm.
work, but Feeding America estimates that to close the protein gap for hungry people, we would need to have 500 million more pounds a year
Wow.
of animal protein. I think
Wow.
that's just meat, but it could include eggs and dairy as well.
Yeah.
But we
Wow.
we have a lot of our companies proudly donate,
Yeah.
at different times of the year to their community food banks, clean rooms, and so you're talking coolers.
Hmm.
You're exactly right. And if you had the ability at a food bank, let's say one, I've been to the one and toured the one in Des Moines.
Hmm.
And I don't know if it's just a central Iowa food bank or if it's another regional, but if you had the ability to have a USDA inspected room where you could take, you know, big carcasses,
Yeah.
half a cow, a quarter of a beef cow, or chickens or whatever, and you could actually do some of the butchering there at
Mm.
the
Yeah.
food bank.
Hmm.
That would be huge, but that's a long ways away. And so
Right.
the even the refrigeration, not having refrigeration is a step in the right direction, because that is what people really really need and want. um, I have a friend and colleague named Diane Sullivan, who has an organization called Equitable Spaces.
Hmm.
Equitable Spaces advocates on behalf of people who have lived experience with homelessness
Mm.
and
Okay.
with needing to go to a food bank in order to feed their families, and they speak to the importance of things like eggs
Hmm.
and meat, and the ability to get that instead of nothing against it, but fruit roll-ups
Yeah.
for their families. So
Right.
it's real, and
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
bless you for doing that, and then for offering on top to be, to assist
Hmm.
and advocate on behalf of people who are having a rough time.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it, and it's just for me again, like I mean, I almost get emotional talking about meat. I mean, it's
Yeah.
and it's it's tough on those families, and we need things like that. I can just remember I have a distinct memory when I was little, probably 4 or something, maybe 3,
Hmm.
I don't know, but walking out of the grocery store, that I as I thought, right, and asking my mom, don't we need to pay for this stuff?
Yeah.
And she just kind of like
Yeah.
shushes me and slams me into the car, and
Yeah.
I'm sure she was embarrassed to some extent, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
hard, at
Yeah.
least
Yeah.
to have to rely on others to feed your family, right? And so, thank God it was there though, because we came through that, and
Exactly.
today our family
Yeah.
thrives. So,
That's right. No, and
mhm.
yes, and we've really been, impressed with how a lot of the food banks, in partnership with grocery stores and some of our food processors, including meat, have stepped up during this government shutdown that we
Mhm.
just came through, where SNAP benefits were interrupted at least
Yeah.
a short while during, for the first time in history. And I think the disruption, is one thing. I think the sense of uncertainty about what is happening was overwhelming. And I know a lot of your listeners in farm country
Mhm.
are experiencing the same sort of uncertainty about the
Yeah.
future of their operations and their businesses, just because the economics are tough, tough, tough right now.
Right.
And the cost of production is creating, all kinds of consequences, and regardless of the reasons at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
trade tariffs, immigration, labor, policy changes, or just the normal up and down economic cycles, things are really, really, really bad. And
Mm-hmm.
the acknowledgement of that and the ability to say, we need to pull together. We need to understand that we're all neighbors,
Yeah.
and how we deal with that as business people, with our neighbors. It's affecting everybody, and so rural communities have as much of a problem with hunger, and getting to a food bank as people do in
Yeah.
urban areas. But I would say the uncertainty that we are in right now, in certain economic circumstances in agriculture and food
Mm-hmm.
is as bad as it's been since I've been
Mm-hmm.
working in these areas.
Yeah. How does that play into sentiment in DC? I mean, when you guys are having conversations, whether it be with other organizations or legislators or litigators or whatever the case may be, I mean,
Yeah,
how does that give those of us that are out here in the country some
yeah,
understanding of like, what does that conversation sound like inside the
yeah.
Beltway?
Yes, it is. I would say for all of the people listening who are part of trade associations or membership organizations that are here, based here, and having these conversations at USDA and at the White House. Depending on where you're going, you might be having them at Treasury at this point, or at
Mm-hmm.
Commerce, because there are so many different cabinet members and staffs that are engaged in a lot of these issues. Department of Labor, certainly on the immigration and visa
Right.
side of things. Um, it's constant. So that's what I want to tell people. It is a
Yeah.
constant conversation. So ever since, January, we have been in at the conference tables, at the meetings, petitioning our government to understand what is really happening and offer solutions.
Yeah.
And sometimes those solutions come in the form of an exemption or a new piece of legislation, or some kind of proposal that would give us relief
Mm-hmm.
for some of the things that are happening right now. But not all of those have been accepted. I think what I would say is that people should feel um, that the uh, Trump administration and the folks in the administration who are really good, hardworking folks are trying, or have asked us to come in.
Mm-hmm.
We have had dialogue, and I'm talking about all of agriculture now. Everything from American Farm Bureau Federation to American Seed Trade Association and
Mm-hmm.
Fertilizer Institute and the commodity groups. I mean, we all get together and we talk every couple of weeks as CEOs. These groups, the Ag CEO Council, which
Mm-hmm.
is sort of the informal group, and everybody is in doing what they can to translate what is happening in farm country. And I think you see the results in
Mm-hmm.
some of the payments that are coming, at least for some of our segments of agriculture, due to some of the tariff retaliation and things like that, losing
Sure.
markets to China. You do see the farmers, particularly, are always held up at farmers and ranchers, as really being the most important constituency that the Department of Agriculture has. And that's great because, you know, we all are. If you're an input to a farmer, or you are, in our case, you are the buyer of that farm's output, our strength of our companies, kind of rises and falls with the farm economy. And that's why we're all focused on helping them, the farmers and ranchers themselves, sort of get through this difficult period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. Could you compare and contrast like this administration versus the last one? I mean, is it? I mean, I'm sure it's night and day, but I mean, what's the
Yeah.
advocacy for the farmer despite what's
Mhm.
going on? Like, I mean, what's the sentiment that way?
Yeah, I think that a lot of the Biden administration and the Trump administration focus on farmers and ranchers
Hmm.
has been very similar. I mean, it really has. There are a lot of policies that I think have been carried on. Some things, people wanted to reject, but a lot of the things that were viewed as positive in farm country, I think have been good. The distinguishing things are what we have seen with the tariffs and the
Yeah.
uncertainty that has been created by. It's not just that a tariff is put in place, but it then becomes, well, is that going to be it? Because we've seen
Hmm.
up and down, and so that has created a great deal of uncertainty. I think the Make America Healthy Again
Yeah.
movement, which is bigger than this administration and bigger than Secretary Kennedy. That's
Hmm.
also been a big change from the Biden administration, because there just really wasn't that much of a focus on
Yeah.
reformulating, uh, food products, or
Yeah.
focusing on pesticides as
Hmm.
a something that they wanted to attack. So
Yeah.
those are very different and almost, completely opposite of the Biden administration. But sort of some of the bread and butter, taking care of farmers especially on the crop side, with the you know excellent service for at FSA offices, and farm bill implementation. I mean, those
Hmm.
are really the bread and butter, and I think there's been a lot of continuation of those good policies from one
Yeah.
administration to the next. But no doubt we are in a very different era. Just the pace and the
Hmm.
volume of what we've been dealing with, since
Hmm.
January has been tremendously different.
Yeah. Well, yeah, at the end of the day, regardless of what happens in DC, I believe ag survives. Right?
It
We
is.
we needed to. It
Yes.
had. I mean, it's that is our number one line of national defense. Let's be honest, and the most important one. And so it will.
Hmm.
It certainly will prevail. I think obviously there's uncertainty in the markets and there's uncertainty in people's minds, and we've got certainly surpluses on the grain side.
Hmm.
That maybe I wouldn't have you speak to, but from the meat industry, let's talk about the meat,
Yeah.
the packers. Like, how is this whole Maha thing impacting
Hmm.
that group? I mean, it seems like consumption's up, demand is up, prices are up. I know I'm paying for it.
Yeah.
So
Well, so the Packers, beef Packers. Let's just focus on
yeah.
the beef side right now. They have been in negative margin territory
Okay.
for quite, I think, 9 quarters now.
Oh wow.
And so, and that is for, several reasons. Predominantly, it is for the beef cattle herd is the smallest it's been in about 75 years.
Hmm.
So we have, we just have a supply demand issue.
Hmm.
Fortunately, as we've talked about earlier in the podcast, demand is through the roof.
Right.
And we still see people paying, for beef. Like,
Hmm.
your children want you to cook them their steaks.
They're
And
not they're
so,
not going without it, or at least not around
no,
here. So
no. And so I think, that and I don't want to get out too far into
yeah.
economics when that's not my speciality, but
Right.
I do think that the cow calf producer, the feeder, the packer, and then the retailer, they're all at different times in the cattle cycle, taking a different share of the price that is ultimately paid for beef by the
Mhm.
consumer. And right now, the packers are in the trough,
Yep.
and so that has been a concern of ours, and what we've been working on a great deal over the last few weeks. You may recall that President Trump indicated opening opening up the quota for more beef from Argentina a few weeks ago, in order to, kind of address the price of beef. But that didn't go over so well, in farm country. And
Right.
so there have been a lot of things that are sort of, I think, still in play. We're working on that. But we have pork, we have chicken, we have turkey coming up for Thanksgiving next week.
Right.
We have veal, we have all kinds of additional proteins and we represent them all. So very focused on beef right now because it seems to have taken an outsized position in the mind of this administration and of the consumer, perhaps, or maybe Fox News, but it is really, it's really kind of if you look at it one way, for our cattlemen, it's a bright spot. They're making money on their product right now, and I think that's a really good thing. We want our cattlemen to be profitable. We need them. They need the slaughterers, and we all need to be working toward capacity so that we get a good price to consumers in the grocery store.
Yeah, so good. Juliana, so many things that I would love to continue on about, and maybe someday we can do a part 2 and get into more talk about leadership and governance. I'd love to talk more about how do we influence more in DC, how do we get involved, how do we get active, how do we make our voices feel heard. If you could just kind of end on that a little bit, if you give somebody listening to this a little bit of a note on, I think we understand how you guys are going about that and the influence that your organization is having. If I'm thinking about John Anderson, he's actually our head coach. He's one of our employees, and he's got a little cow-calf herd that he runs in Southwest Minnesota. So if you're John, what are you advising him to do to stay apprised of what's going on and lend a little bit of influence if you can?
Sure. Oh, it's all about, staying connected to those groups that you feel are giving you value and kind of the information that they're providing. I think there's great value as when you are in an industry segment to all be kind of looking at the same data and the same, sources. It's good to compare and contrast what else is out there, but to speak a common language and to actually be aligned around efforts that will yield results. I think you do have to sort of be in agreement that, these are the economists that we get our information from. These are the news sources that are the most valuable. So that's one thing that is easier to do when you're kind of connected to an organization or an academic institution, or, even in your schools and churches locally, you really need to have legitimately trustworthy, good sources of information. I think that's one thing. But in being influential, having that knowledge gives you the influence, because today you don't have to go through and have your own lobbyist in Washington. You can get on social media and make your positions, your opinions, and your influence known. Yeah. And I would say that's probably the biggest change in the work that we do here in Washington, is that social media and the ability to really crowdsource things and get to policymakers or get to each other. It's just so much different now. And so trying to figure out how best to incorporate, the right education or facts and trustworthy resources into the social media that people are engaged in is a real challenge. And I think something we all need to work on when we think about the business of agriculture moving forward.
Very good. Awesome. Yeah. Great answer and great advice. Great advice on that. I think we need to.
I'd love to talk to you again anytime you want. This has been loads of fun. And I think there are about a half a dozen issues that we never even covered.
I know there's so many things that we could just get into, and would love to talk even more leadership around this. And I think maybe the one, there's many pieces of value that you brought today, but I think really helping us understand this the kind of the middle piece. We often think about farmers and ranchers. We often think about the producer side of it. We often think about what's going on in DC, but then there's all these, obviously we understand that there are packers. We understand that there's kind of a middle piece, but when we're talking about the downstream impact of the number of people that touches from an employment perspective and an economic contribution, I mean, you're talking several $100 million all in. Like it's a lot, right? And I think we often kind of take for granted those that are not seen as much that way. And so that was really interesting to learn about today.
Well, good. I'm glad and look forward to connecting again. And meanwhile, I will send you our economic study hot off the press, and so you can provide that to your listeners.
Yeah, please do. Please do. And for those that are Meat Institute members, if you guys are in there, actually, I have one more really important question before we get off here. This is really important. What book or podcast recommendation do you have for listeners? What do you love to read or listen to that you're like, hey, you guys got to take a look at this?
That is a really, really great question. And it is off the cuff. I'm going to say that I am about to listen to an economic podcast by the chief economist for Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company. Her name is Kathy Bostanchik, and she is so impressive. And she really breaks down in plain English kind of where things are headed in, she has as much of a crystal ball as any economist I've ever listened to. But it's the macro, it's really what is happening out in the world. And when you apply that to your own segment, and really think about, what is the S&P doing? What's jobs looking like? What we are spending on AI these days. I mean, there are several indicators beyond GDP that really we should be paying attention to over the dinner table with your kids when you eat your steak. That's what I want to talk about next time. But Kathy Bostanchik with Nationwide, and I think you can find her on on all the usual places.
Okay. Is she going on different shows, or does Nationwide Insurance have it's her own podcast? Okay. Got it. Yeah, that'll be super interesting. So one of the reasons we ask, we just started doing this in the last 10 or so episodes, but we have a new product called Jericho, which is it's an AI driven learning and development platform that so basically what we do is we work with our clients to help create hyper personalized, curated individual growth plans. Okay. So we take these resources that come on the show, and so we're building a resource library inside Jericho that has podcasts and YouTube videos and books and so on and so forth. And then as people are looking to grow in a specific area, Jericho makes these resources as recommendations and curates playlists, right, to help people grow on their journey of becoming really good at whatever it is that they're aiming to do. So
that's excellent. That's excellent.
So we'll look that up and get that in there. So, and then anybody who's a Meat Institute member, we're going to do this. So just reach out to us if you guys end up using any of our services, be it Jericho or anything else. We're going to hook you up a little special package. So
excellent. That's great.
Meat Institute. So awesome, Juliana, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Mark. I have enjoyed this thoroughly, and have a happy Thanksgiving.
You as well.